So I invite the speaker to join and also the moderators. That will be my colleague Chuvuma Paul. So Paul, if you are in the call, please take the floor.
Thank you so much, Vito. I'll be the moderator for this session, and the topic is ecosystem crisis restoration. We'll be looking at marine, land, and mountains. So there are four key speakers here, and to make this brief, we would have one free round of introduction. So if I call on you, you briefly introduce yourself. Carol Maione, if you're on the call, please introduce yourself.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much for the invitation, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm Carol. I'm a PhD candidate in the program of industrial engineering at the Polytechnic University of Milan, and I mostly focus on the role of enabling technology to monitor plastic pollution in the ocean and other water system environment, and what is the role of industry in this transition towards a circular economy of plastics. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Carol. And I'll call on Zakir Hussain. If you're on the call, please introduce yourself.
Am I audible?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here. I am Zakir Hussain. I am based in London, but I am from Pakistan, and I'm the youth leader and youth environmental activist, and I'm the founder of Global Youth Biodiversity Network Pakistan chapter. And this is my introduction, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Zakir. It's a pleasure to have you here today. So, Erin Wakeman, if you're on the call, please introduce yourself.
Yes, hello, everyone. Happy to be here. Can everyone hear me? I'm assuming so.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Erin Wakeman, and I'm joining you from Naples, Italy. And what I am here to talk about is the activities that our group here, Insiet, does to contribute to how to look after the planet, and through our different approaches, how we can get we can facilitate better practices, daily practices in our consumption, and in how that we can improve the planet.
Okay, thank you so much, Erin. It's a pleasure to also have you here today. So finally, we have Niccolò Delporto. Niccolò, if you're on the call, please introduce yourself.
I'm here. Okay, so hi, everyone. Well, first of all, thank you very much to Domenico for inviting me, and to Paul for moderating this panel discussion. As you can see from the tag under the video, my name is Niccolò Delporto. I'm from Italy. I'm an LLM student in Law and Sustainable Development at the University of Milan, and I'm currently supporting Earth Advocacy Youth as an Earth advocate. Earth Advocacy Youth is an international action group of young professionals in Earth jurisprudence. Our aim is to build and apply Earth-centered solutions and practices through youth-led advocacy in education, in policy, and in legal action. And well, our organization strives for actively building advocacy-based youth representation and participation for Earth jurisprudence and the rights of nature, by raising the importance of youth in advocating for system change and amplifying their role on the field. So I'm very glad to be here and discussing with you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Niccolò. Yeah, so we have four different panelists for this session, and we will have 3 unique questions, and each of the panelists would have around 5 minutes to give a concise response to each of the questions. Thank you so much once again. We are really delighted to have you all here. So the first question is, how do you think the climate crisis is affecting ecosystem and the ecosystem of your interest in particular. So we want to hear the effect of this from your own perspective. So how do you think the climate crisis is affecting ecosystems, specifically from your system of interest? So the first speaker, I would like Carol Maione to go first.
Thank you. So yeah, this is a very interesting and timely question. And I also wanted to raise attention on the point that like sometimes when we think about like the impact of the climate crisis, we mostly think of like land environment. But we should also remember that what's happening on land is also happening like underwater. And even if we do not see that on a daily basis, or if we do not see that in our life, there are still like the same effects that are happening on land are happening like in the oceans as well. And just to mention a couple, we have like deforestation, which is happening in the ocean as well, such as like Posidonia, which is like which is an ocean plant and that's suffering from like raising global temperature and which affects like the temperature of the water. And I've recently worked on this project in which we mapped Posidonia in one of the marine protected areas in the Mediterranean Sea, and we noticed like a decline in this species due to like increased like water temperature. And the same is true for biodiversity. So for example, when we see like decrease in biodiversity in the ocean, on the land, we also have decrease in biodiversity in the ocean. There's currently some projects like studying the native species to the Mediterranean Sea and how increased water temperature is affecting on biodiversity loss. So I think it's really important to consider like how, in addition to like ocean acidification, glacier melting, we have like a whole like a very complex like situation which is affecting the creature living underwater.
Thank you so much, Carol. That was really precise and straight to the point. I really appreciate your response. So I'll call on Zakir, Hussain on the same question. What would be your thoughts on that? What would be your ideal response to that question, Mr. Zakir Hussain?
This is a very broad question. I think we can speak so long on this, but precisely I want to say, from the last few countries, my countries have been facing so many problems regarding climate change on effect on ecosystems, such as a very long duration of heat waves, floods, and massive unpredicted rains, and also landslidings. So before, unfortunately, in a developing country, a lot of people, they don't understand and then don't recognize the problem, what is the problem and how can we tackle this problem. But after these incidents, now people are getting understand this is the problem and it will really affect our life. It will really create so many hurdles in our daily life. As my country, from the last 2 years, like thousands of people have died due to heat waves. So now this problem is one of the hot topic in my country, and now people are trying to change their lifestyle because this is a mandatory to change our daily routine life. Unfortunately, in developing countries, people have the very different lifestyle and they don't take care about the ecosystem things, and they don't take care about how can we reduce our footsteps. So now they are understanding, because they are facing a huge problems like heat waves, massive landslides, massive storms, floods. So these things affected the people's daily routine life, and now people still, we have a lot of work. We need to do a lot of work on this, but now this is one of the most hot issue in my country. So people are trying to understand the things, and they are gradually trying to change their lifestyle to save the ecosystem. This is from my side. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Zakir Hussain. So I'll pass it on to Erin Wakeman What are your thoughts on this question?
Okay, thank you. What I have to say about this particular subject is that I think that one of the main problems of climate change has to do, as what my former, her name is Carol, I believe, she mentioned what is underneath the sea, that most of the oxygen production comes from the sea, and she mentioned Poseidone, which is a plant that is very, very prevalent in the Mediterranean Sea, and that the production of Poseidone and other types of coral in the sea has been completely devastated by human contamination. And one can see the differences between contaminated areas and uncontaminated areas. Is just to go not too far from here in Naples, Italy, there's the smallest natural sea marine protected area in Italy, and it's called the Gaiola. If you take a mask and a tube and a snorkel, you can go see the differences from 5 meters to and you go outside of the park and you can see the difference between the life that is in the park and what is outside. The corals and Poseidone are completely different there, and also the sea life. And so I think that the human contamination that we produce has a huge difference in the amount of oxygen that we can produce for the planet. And I believe that one of the best things that we can do as far as protecting the sea and to reducing our footprint is to protect the sea. Oh. Yes, hello.
Bingo.
Yes, okay. Well, I've finished.
All right.
Okay. Thank you so much. Now calling Niccolò. Niccolò, your response to this question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul, and thank you for all the contributions so far. I'm very glad that we are actually focusing more on life below sea, because usually from these kind of discussions, what comes with more relevance is the terrestrial ecosystems. Well, we know that, 70% of the Earth is covered by ocean. And so, in my opinion, personally, I think that the international negotiations and in general, the international community should focus more on marine ecosystems, in particular oceans, because as you were previously saying, Erin, most of the oxygen that we breathe, more than 50% comes from the ocean. And so I guess, at least from an utilitarian point of view, humans should focus more and more on oceans, because we see also that the most shocking and unprecedented and those kind of threats that we cannot face with more easiness are those related to oceans, because we still don't know much about that kind of ecosystem. We don't know what happens below a certain meters of the oceans. And so now we are seeing that there is all this race towards the space, but still we don't know much about our planet. And well, I personally believe that we should focus more on this. We see some tremendous effects which come from anthropogenic activities on the planet, which affects the oceans. And particularly, what is more shocking about this is the fact that only 4% of the whole ocean territory is a marine protected area, and 1% of all the high seas is a marine protected area, which is a tremendously low percentage, since again, most of biodiversity so far is living below the sea, and most of the overexploitation of resources is coming from the oceans. So absolutely, I think especially what was being discussed during the previous panel discussion by those 3 experts is absolutely on point with what we are about to talk today, because anthropogenic activity is probably the most pressing problem that we are about to face from now to the future. And so, again, I'm very glad that we are talking about this today, and I look forward to continue discussing this.
Okay, thank you so much, Niccolò. That was a very nice narrative. So, having evaluated how the climate crisis has affected our ecosystems, the next question would focus on what is the solution and how would youth play a role in restoring the ecosystem. So the same way we are going through it. So precisely the question is, what can the youth do to help restore the ecosystems? So I would call on Carol Maione to give her thoughts on this question. Carol Maione.
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much for this question. Well, I think like we can follow up what has been said for the previous panel. So awareness, like education, being informed and forming and produce informed decision would be crucial, like in order to understand the problem at first. But also something else that I would like to add is like to have an active role in the protection of like the ocean, but also like the land and the biodiversity. And in these terms, we can like contribute in several different ways. And I would just like to bring one example. So lately we've been hearing a lot about like citizen science and the role of citizen science, for example, in monitoring plastic pollution. And I think that's a very important discussion that we should bring to the table, because like during citizen science, we can both like serve science for a purpose and collect data and also sometimes do sports, do different activities. For example, I'm part of this diving community in which we map the ecosystem underwater. And I think it's very interesting in the way we both like, you know, combine our personal interests. We explore beautiful environments and also we collect data to serve scientific purposes. Hello? Okay. Okay, thank you. And so I would say like being part of citizen science projects can be a very, very great opportunity to get to know better the issues like connected to the ocean or the land or the land ecosystems, to be part of the solution and to spur like science and scientific projects. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Carol. I would call on Zakir, Hussain to respond to the same question.
Thank you so much, and a great ideas from the Errol. From my side, I would like to say youth can play a vital role to maintain our ecosystem. As first of all, we need to realize the people what is the actual problem. Unfortunately, still in the entire world, a huge number of people, they are not aware about the problem. What is the actual problem? So we need to realize them what is the problem and how can we overcome on this problem. And secondly, we need to motivate and start awareness program, especially in the children and the youth. As if I talk about my country, as I used to work on the ground level, and we organize our different awareness program. A huge number of people, they are not aware about the problem, and so we need to start a program like add these problems in our curriculum. Like if we add this about like environmental issues, if we add in our curriculum as a mandatory subject, so it will really help to understand the people how can we overcome the problem. Because in the last few months I have conducted so many online and in person programs. So many people, literally they are not aware about the problem. So I feel so sad, how can we overtake when people, they are still not aware from the problem. So we need to empower our youth. We need to give more power and more authority. So we have to do work on the ground level. Thanks. This is from my side.
Oh, thank you so much, Zakir identifying the problem and coming up with initiatives to create awareness and bridge the knowledge gap. Nice line of thought there, Mr. Zakir. So I would call on Erin Wakeman. What can the youth do to help restore the ecosystems?
Okay, thanks, Paul. I think that one of the best strategies that we can do as a youth, although I don't feel like I can consider myself the youth anymore because I've reached a certain age, but as far as encouraging youth, but not only youth, but all ages, that through education and to encourage more virtuous practices not in everyday life. Instead of when you take a walk, instead of throwing out your litter, you pick up 3. That's something that we do in Insiet, our group. That's what we do. Instead of throwing out, you pick up 3. And these are small actions that everyone can do every day. And I feel like that many youth and all citizens, not just youth, but youth in particular are very conscious of the crisis that we're facing right now. And they're left with a sense of helplessness. You know, what can I do? That's what many youth ask themselves, I think. What can I do? I'm just one person. What can I do? And this is a sort of feeling that I learned that actually has a name from Melissa, who did an excellent speech on health, on mental health in particular, and I believe the term is eco-anxiety, and I think I must admit that I suffer from eco-anxiety, and of a sense of helplessness in what just one person can do, but one person plus other people can turn into one big action. So changing just one thing every day can really make a difference. And I think that in spreading this word, that's the best way that we can, as a population, as not just youth, all adults, all children, we have to instill virtuous practices in everyday life.
Oh, thank you so much, Erin. Niccolò, floor is yours.
All right, thank you so much, Paul. Well, I have to agree with all that has been said. In particular, I personally believe that what is needed is what has been called an ecological revolution. So the consciousness by all members of the civil society that we are actually living in an emergency state, which fortunately is what some countries are starting to officially declare, even if not much has been done from that moment so far. But again, for having this paradigm shift, which is what was being discussed before in the panel discussion, I think that what is needed is eco-literacy. I mean, the possibility and the knowledge that youth, all people, must have regarding the threats and also the possibilities that we as a human species have in order to preserve the rest of biodiversity which is remained on our planet. Especially I think that using some narratives which may ease things for those people who are not maybe directly involved in studying biology or chemistry or these scientific climatology and all these other scientific fields is essential. And that's why environmental education is so relevant. In particular, what has led me to start promoting the rights of nature is the Anthropocene narrative, which fortunately more and more people are starting to be aware of, and is the fact that humans have become a geological force, the main geological force driving this geological phase, which has indeed been called the Anthropocene. So as soon as we as activists are able to shift this paradigm, which is shaping our world today, which has been shaping this world since the Industrial Revolution, then we can start thinking about some concrete actions which can be taken both on the micro level and in the macro level. So as Erin was saying, any one of us can do its better in its small in order to provide a better outcome for the planet and for the environment. But at the same time, I think that's campaigning and advocating in groups, organized groups, for asking to our national governments some concrete actions is fundamental, so that we both have a bottom-up approach and a top-down approach by pushing these governments in taking actions. The problem is that the bottom-up approach takes a second to be done. I mean, we can easily start taking our trash and recycling trash or doing beach cleansing, but it makes a small difference on the overall situation that we're living in. On the other hand, the top-down approach, which may be the most preeminent solution, if national governments start, for example, stop subsidizing companies which pollute, but there are so many other possibilities that may be undertaken. This requires a lot of time because, of course, there is the need for having consent from all states before taking such huge decisions. But since we do not have enough time, we have to work on both tracks in order to deliver the best outcome for our planet.
Thank you so much, Niccolò. It's crazy to respond. Thank you so much once again. We're moving right to the last question. Now, this is more personalized. What is your group doing to restore ecosystems? So I would call on Carol Maione once again. What's your group doing? What role are you is your organization playing, or your group playing to restore our ecosystems? Carol.
Okay.
Maione.
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. I would like to report a few different activities. So for example, I'm collaborating with the UNEP group of part of the major group for children and youth, in which I'm part of the working group on marine litter and microplastics. And through this group, what we do is advocacy. We also do webinar on capacity building in order to inspire other youth to be part of the solution, to be responsible for their own behavior, and also to be more informed and inform other youth as well. And also by calling out their governments and the local institution to take action against plastic or more in general marine pollution. We also do a lot of different educational activities, but of course there's always something new to learn. So being seen active and being part of educational program is very timely and urgent. As part of my PhD research and research more in general, I collaborate on several different projects for data collection underwater or underwater surface using different approaches ranging from satellite technology to spot plastic pollution in the ocean, but also to model this accumulation of plastic and how they move through the ocean and what are the impact underwater, collecting data underwater. But I would like to point out that these are not separate activities, and they can be effective if they're all combined together. So the education, the advocacy, the data collection and citizen science, in which we bring together people and we bring them closer to the problem. And then effectively, merging this data collected by the citizens, to the data more collected through scientific, protocol. And considering this as part of the same solution is what is really important here to be able to deliver tangible results. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Carol. Robust response there. Thank you once again. So I'll call on Zakir Hussain. What's your thoughts on this question? What is your group doing to restore the ecosystems? Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving again opportunity to speak. Well, I think we actually, first of all, we have working on start as Carol also doing the same work. We are trying to collaborate with different organizations who are working on the ground, because when we do collaboration, so we can get the benefit from the different people's expertise. So we are trying to collaborate with our local youth organization Also, we organize different capacity building program on ground and online, and also in schools, and also art competition, like how children think about the nature and they think about this kind of thing. And also we are trying to engage our government officials, as last month we organized a clean drive in a national park where we invite 2 or 3 our provincial ministers. So, and now we have planned to do like we organize these kind of activities. Also, we are trying to engage with the local communities, because most of the time we only focus on the youth, but we have to focus on the all age group, because if we need a long-term planning and we want a big impact, so we need to involve all age group of people. So we are trying to start up different kind of activities in and on community level with like with elder people and middle-aged people. So these are our plannings, and we are also working to make our 3 years plan. And for each year, like so hopefully we have a lot of plans, but unfortunately facing tough time regarding funding. So hopefully we will do something good for our nature. Thanks.
Oh, thank you so much, Zakir. I'll move over to Erin Wakeman. What's your thoughts on that question?
Yes, okay. I think that, well, where our group, that what we do, it pretty much begins directly from the name of our group. If you take a look, Insiet. Insiet is basically a phonetic spelling of a phrase in the Neapolitan dialect. If you read it, Insiet in Neapolitan means don't throw it out. And anyone who can see it in Insiet can automatically feel at home if you come here, because it comes with the pride of being Neapolitan. I'm not Neapolitan by birth, but I feel like I've been adopted by the place, and feeling like you belong somewhere is the beginning of starting changes and being positive. And our group begins with an initiative that was born in Australia, which is Take 3 for the Sea. And our group basically adopted this campaign, and we brought it here, and we call it Prendi 3, which basically Take 3. And we adopted it, and we also ran with it. And we've made up other initiatives, Dona 3, Pianta 3, Dona 3 meaning you donate clothes to be reused, instead of, because the fashion industry is a highly known pollutant into the environment. And so it's all about economic circular economy. If you look at our logo, it's a circle, and we promote the circular economy. And is also with Pianta 3, which means plant 3. You can make a big difference, and you try to involve other people in your social network. I planted 3 plants today. How about you do the same? And the idea is to create one that similar to what happened with, if everyone remembers, the water bucket challenge from a few years ago, is that you challenge tagging people on social media, using social media in a positive way to involve people in being more responsible in acting in their activities during the day. And another initiative that we have is called Prendi l'acqua. And a big problem in Naples is the unavailability of public water. Many of the
espera, es que están hablando de algo importante.
One of the many problems that we have here in Naples is the unavailability of public water during the day. There are public water fountains, but they're either broken or they don't work, or they've completely shut off the water. So with what we've done is that we've made Prendi l'acqua, which is basically a sticker that virtuous commercial activities throughout the city, they put that on their window saying Prendi l'acqua. And if anyone who sees this decal on the window knows that there you can go to that activity and they will fill up your water bottle for free with no questions asked. You don't have to buy anything, there no strings attached. And this is a problem, a very big problem in Naples, is that there's always this big feeling that you have to pay to get water. And you have to buy the little the water bottle that as soon as you're done with it, you throw it out. Here with Prendi l'acqua, that is an approach that we've taken. Also with cleanups, we try to incorporate fun with the way that in cleaning up beaches. For example, we have an initiative called Caccia alla Plastica. And in these initiatives, we try to combine sports and athletics, and anyone that enjoys physical activity. We've done a swimming edition in which there was an open sea swimming race of 2 kilometers, and every swimmer was paired with a team of plastic cleanup people. And every kilo of plastic that was taken from the beaches took a second off every swimmer's time. And there are prizes involved, and people get really passionate about it, including children. There were many children in the race who were very passionate about what we were doing. And also another way to approach, we've also had a Kayak Edition, which was quite successul, where everyone, we had a local kayak renting station who put their kayaks up to our use for the initiative, so that we could all go out and kayak and pick up plastic in inaccessible areas of the sea in Naples. And also concentrating on the lower economic areas of the city, in a place called Secondigliano, which is one of the main areas where there is drug dealing, and trying to support more virtuous activities in the poorer areas of Naples. That is where we need, that is also a very fundamental area of where we need to concentrate, is educating people who basically live paycheck to paycheck, not even less than paycheck to plate, a plate on the table by a plate on the table. Where am I going to get my next meal? That sort of thing. We need to educate not only the entire population, but concentrate on the youth and the youth in the lower economic areas of the city.
Oh, thank you so much, Erin Wakeman. We now call on Niccolò Delporto. What's your response to this question?
Well, thank you very much, Paul. And before starting with the description of our activities, I just wanted to say that I really appreciate what you, Erin, are doing in Naples, especially because in Italy, there is something which is not being said as much as it will be needed, which is the fact that Italy is the #1 country in Europe for the consume of plastic water, of bottled water, and the 3rd in the world for the consumption of bottled water, which is a tremendous amount of plastic, which has been used for no purpose actually, because we could just invest more in producing better infrastructure. And I mean, 1 liter of tap water costs 1,000th of a liter of bottled water. So that's a ridiculous amount of plastic that we are wasting. And so activities like yours are absolutely needed. So next time I will come to Naples, I'd love to come and work with you on this. Well,
we'd love to have you.
What we do at Earth Advocacy Youth is something more international. So we try to push governments towards taking some concrete action for preserving the high seas. So we decided to focus on marine protection and advocacy for the rights of the ocean, in particular, hello, those related to the high seas. So we decided to organize the Youth for Ocean Digital Summit, which will be held from 25 to 27 of November. It will be a 3-day online summit, which will bring global youth together to discuss about the threats and the damages of the world's oceans and the ways that we could save them, and the skills, especially the skills that young people need to become ocean advocates. So that will be a sort of training for people in order to push their national governments towards the recognition of ocean rights. The summit, in fact, is centered around the principle of youth education and advocacy, which are the principles that we have been discussing so far today. The project, notably, is an initiative organized as part of Youth for Our Planet, in partnership with us, Art Advocacy Youth, with Reserva, the Youth Land Trust, other youth organizations who share the goal of protecting the oceans, such as WWF UK, the Global Youth Biodiversity Network, Coalition Wild, and also the BBNJ. So I'm very glad to see Zakir today from the Global Youth Biodiversity Network of Pakistan. Well, this event has the aim to generate a powerful space where about 200 young change makers will co-build bold campaigns to demand tangible implementation of the targets, which are defined through the UN CBD, the various COPs which are being discussed during these days and in the near future, the targets set by the UNEP and the UN Decade on ecosystem restoration. What is unique from this summit is that it has an Earth-centered foundation, which means that the campaigns will be tailored not only to push national governments in these fields, but in general, the core principles are to defend the intrinsic rights of the ocean to exist, to thrive, to regenerate, and to ensure that the important role of the ocean in biodiversity and climate is recognized in these gatherings and agreements. Moreover, we are trying to target SDG number 6, 13, and 14, so left below water, by bringing together international experts on ocean issues with the purpose of sensibilizing young participants on environmental threats that marine biodiversity face. And this will be done during pre-summit webinars, which will be held prior to the summit itself. In fact, we will offer these free, of course, preparatory online webinars with global researchers and academics who will inform us about the current state of the ocean around the world and how important the role of the ocean is in the various processes that our initiative is going to tap into. So basically, the intrinsic rights of the oceans to exist. And in general, what we've been talking today so far. The summit itself will serve as a platform for tangible and concrete skill sharing and the development and exchange of practical tools and methods for putting pressure on our governments and policymakers to protect the ocean, as I just said. We want to provide a space where young change makers from around the world can act by building campaigns and discussing solutions for the conservation of the oceans. Because of course, it's not just necessary to know about the state of the oceans, but also to gather and discuss and promote the solutions that we can take in order to preserve the marine ecosystem. By doing that, we will assist the progress in cross-pollination across a lot of youth movements which are about to join us, about the idea that the world's ocean and marine ecosystems have this intrinsic right to exist. Post-summit, and this is the interesting aspect of this summit, some mentors will work in implementing campaigns which have been developed during the summit by the participants. Each campaign and action will be co-applied with Art Advocacy Youth, of course, all the stakeholders, and again, we will try to build movements and informing them, guide them, and inspiring them to adopt more Earth-centered approach in their activism for the oceans. So whoever may be interested in working with us, we can get in touch later. Ultimately, and I conclude, our goal is to raise awareness around ocean issues with these experts, but in order to achieve that, we aim at catalyzing powerful reactions and actions for the important role that the world's ocean plays in biodiversity and global climate, which is something that I was as I was saying at the beginning of this panel discussion, I believe is not being addressed as much as it will be needed. And in addition, we really look forward to cross-pollinate other organizations which work in the environmental sector by teaching and discussing together about art jurisprudence and the rights of nature. So again, I look forward from hearing all of you, whoever may be interested in this kind of activities. We are more than open for discussion. And so now I will leave back the floor to Paul, and thank you very much for this space.
Thank you so much, Niccolò. Your responses were really, really rich and robust. And thank you once again. I want to say thank you to all our speakers for this particular session. And I'm opening the floor now to questions. The participants, if you have a question for any of our speakers around the concept or any other area of concern regarding what we just discussed, please kindly raise up your hand and put out your thoughts. Okay, I guess there was no question from the participants. So once again, I want to say thank you so much, our speakers and also the participants for your time, attention, and exquisite responses. Before we move on to the next session, we'll take a 10-minute break and we'll be back for our next session, which will be focused on climate education. Once again, thank you so much, and it was a pleasure to have you all here.
Thank you so much, Paul, and thank you, Domenico.
Thank you, Paul. It was a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure to join you.